Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's me again, Ben Olivier, your Car Pro Southern Region Safety Manager. So today we're going to actually go through as far as the inspection, the daily vehicle inspection prior to getting on the roadways today. Okay ladies and gentlemen, so it's real important again when we're going to do our daily vehicle inspection report is that the first thing we're going to go through as far as popping the hood on the vehicle. But even prior to popping the hood on vehicles, again, always keep in mind as you're walking to your vehicle, wherever you have it staged at, overnight or the day before or even throughout the day, it's really important to continue to observe underneath, around it, or ever, but because again, you notice so much from a distance as you're walking up to your vehicle. That way you can notice if there's any potential fluid leaking out of the engine or the wheel hubs or the seals, whatever it may be. So it's real important, but the main thing here as far as we're going to do is popping the hood. And again, you start checking your main components. A lot of things that we want to start checking is definitely your engine oil, your radiator, your coolant, your windshield wipers, your power steering fluid. You want to check your belts on your alternator. You want to check your belts on your fan. Just making sure that everything is intact so we can again continue to move on. But while you're checking that, what we're looking for is any type of conditions that may eliminate this truck from being operational down the highways. Again, looking for any type of fluids out there, okay? So again, making sure we checking these main components again will save you definitely time and headache. Okay guys, now since we have successfully went through the engine compartment of making sure we're checking out everything, so we're going to move over to doing the full 360 walk around. So what it is, what consists of the full 360 walk around? So as we're getting to tires, looking at to see if the tires are inflated properly. So how do we determine if the tires are inflated properly? Again, what we're going to do is just kind of look down here and look for some of the writing, the details. Again, it varies by tires how much pound pressure of air you want to actually put in these tires. So it's real critical to actually identify that, and again making sure we have the proper amount of pressure inside the tires. But even then, how do we do that? An air gauge, guys. A lot of times guys will always come back there, they'll kick it, they'll look at it, visually inspect it. But again, how do we be certain? Again, having the proper tools, and the proper tool for this will be actually an air gauge. Something so simple, it takes time, but again, that time will save us a whole lot of more time down the road if we catch a flat tire or cause any other type of trouble down the road, okay? So another thing we're identifying, this is your hub caps. Hub bearings, where your bearings are inside your hubs. Again, these are filled with oil. We're identifying any type of leakage. If we find any type of fluids sitting around these hubs or around these caps, that is telling us either that wheel is cracked, that hub cap is cracked or something, so we need to identify it and fix the problem. Keeping it clean, keeping it properly maintained. Looking at your lugs, making sure that it's seat good around there, and look for any type of signs around here of showing if maybe your lugs are loose. And again, just a little quick hand on it will simply be able to help you identify if any of the lugs are loose or anything on the wheels itself, okay? So we're going to continue walking around, and again, as you're walking around, you want to identify if there's any type of fluids on the ground. These are determined whether or not if this truck has been leaking while it's been sitting either overnight or ever during the duration of the day while it's been parked. Again, same thing applies for the rear tires. But again, right here, we have the inner and the outer. And sometimes it's hard to identify this. We can actually look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's up, it's inflated properly. But again, take that gauge, take that tool, identify the proper gauge as far as the pressure that should be inflated into the tires. One of the other things a lot of times that the DOT officers want to do is look at your brake adjustments. But again, we are limited to figure out what is the proper measurement, or even if we're having our brakes adjusted properly. Now a lot of the vehicles are coming with self-adjusted slack adjusters, so it kind of adjusts as time goes on, as the brake wears. It automatically pretty much just adjusted for us. But again, there's times where the slack adjusters are not working properly. But again, annual inspections, and again, properly maintaining anytime this truck has to go in for an oil change. These are some of the critical points we want to actually get covered and have documented when we actually bringing these things out for maintenance, okay? So again, looking at these obvious as far as identifying any type of leakage in the hubs, you know. Another key component, mud flaps. What are mud flaps? Why they're so important? There's a lot of road debris. We're always continuing to get complaints about road hazards, about, things are hitting somebody's windshield. But again, we need these. These are real important. These are real critical to have on there to help, to eliminate, to obstruct, to stop from any type of material or road hazards flying up and making contact with other vehicles that may be following, okay? But at the same time as well, we're going to continue with identifying, looking at all your lighting, your electrical components, as far as your headlights, your signal lights, your high beam, your low beam, your marker lights, brake lights, backup alarms. These are the things that we want to actually do, not only just one time a day, but anytime you have that opportunity to stop at a rest area or wherever that may be, or you're putting fuel, definitely take that time to do that walkthrough and identify all these things here. So again, real critical, guys, to continue doing this as well. Okay, yeah, guys, so what we're going to do as we're going to do this 360, so we're going to actually take a walk back to the cab or the compartment of the truck, and we're going to turn on all the lights. While we're doing that 360 is really important. That way you can check out all your marker lights, your running lights, your cab lights, your high beam, your low beam, while we're doing that 360, okay? So what's important too, what's good when you have more than one person, the driver or the operator of this vehicle can actually stay in the cab, and you can have that other person actually doing the walk around, identifying the signal lights, the brake lights, the low beam, the high beam, all your marker lights. He can identify some of these things for you. That way you can avoid as far as coming back and forth to that truck, because again, that takes time. It kind of wear you out. And again, if we're being distracted, we may forget about looking at certain things. So it's always real great to see if we can actually identify these things. So, and again, the hazards lights as well. We want to identify that as much as we can while we're outside doing the walkthrough. So again, as we're identifying everything, all your lights are properly working all around. And again, it's real important when you're actually doing walkthroughs with this, say, as far as this Jeffco 30K drill rig, you want to look to see if there's any materials that may be wedged or that may even have the opportunity as far as flying off of this rig, because again, now you're talking about load securement that's in here. So all we're trying to do as far as trying to be proactive. If we can eliminate it, let's eliminate it. I think we'll be doing a great job before getting on the highways. Okay, so we're going to continue walking around. We're identifying the mud flaps. And as we're getting in the back, again, identifying all our marker lights. Are they working properly? So it's real good to making sure everything is identified as we're walking around here doing the 360. Okay? Same thing applies. Now we're coming to the right side of the vehicle. Everything we talked about from the left side, same thing applies to the right side. And again, if you see things or if you're not sure of, prior to getting on that road, and if once you identify these things, you want to have it marked down on your DVIR, okay? That's real important. I've identified, and it's not going to, as far as affect the operational side of the vehicle as we're commuting down the road. You definitely want to have it documented and marked until you can get to your next destination so we can have that repaired, okay? So as we continue walking around, we're seeing all our lights are continuing to work. So as we identified there are a few components. Do these have the capability of maybe of flying out? It may be. So once I do it, you can look at it. It's not secured, so it's continually having that opportunity to maybe flop around or even maybe damage some other parts of the equipment while we're traveling down the roadways, okay? Looking at your tires again as well. Looking at your lugs. Looking at your hub seals, looking at your brakes, as far as much as you can. Put it that way, much as you can. Here, just walking around, even looking at your muffler system, making sure there's any type of leak. And how we identify, you look at any type of maybe charred or anything that may be corrosive around the muffler clamps that can see leakage, you will find some black scuffs or anything around the muffler clamps that are identifying that cab leaking, because what that can do can actually start gradually going inside the cab, and definitely we don't want to have fumes being trapped inside the cab while you're being operating the truck. Okay everyone, now we have successfully completed our 360 walk around. Now it's time for the cab. So what is involved as far as in the cab? What do we need to know that's so important for the cab? For one, how about paperwork, documentation, right? What does it take? What type of documentation that we're talking to? Because now we're in the drill rig. So what it would take? How about registration? Check. Insurance card? Check. Annual DOT inspection? Check. How about an annual permit? Check. So these are some of the things that you want to make sure as a driver. You want to make sure, because again, you're responsible. You are the one responsible for any of the documentation that needed to have in this vehicle while you're traveling down the roadways. Okay, so it's real important making sure you have everything at your fingertips if needed before you even leave out. Okay, so now that is done, what else do we need to look at? How about our safety components? How about seatbelt? Looking at our seatbelt, making sure, hey, is this thing working properly? You know, making sure that everything that we have is properly being operable. Is it secured? Do we have any type of tears in it? Type of frays? I think we're good. How about triangles? So we definitely want to make sure we got our triangles, which we have that. Fire extinguishers. Not only we make sure we have the fire extinguisher, but make sure that it's fully charged, making sure that it's green, making sure that it has been did his annual inspection, its monthly inspection. So we want to go through the process, making sure, looking at that, and making sure that it's all completed. Okay, so that's one area that's real important. Next thing we want to do is looking at far as our extra tools, extra supplies, what we need. So what do we mean by extra supplies as far as equipment? Fuses, light bulbs, lights, mud flaps, anything that can be changed out fairly quickly while at a job site on the side of the road, so you can continue to operate safely as you're going to continue. Where do we keep these? A lot of these things can be kept right here in the glove box, right here in a separate container here, such as here, where we have a lot of extra material, a lot of extra fuses and wires or anything else that we need to continue. Okay, so it's all here, it's all noted. So once we have successfully made sure, documented all these things here, what else are we looking at? Our gauges, right? So if I'm coming in a truck, I need to identify, because again, certain trucks, gauges are placed different places. So before we even continue to move on and starting, identify every gauge has a reason, has a meaning to it. And again, for instance, alternator gauge for the battery, right? How about your coolant? How about your oil pressure, your RPM, your speedometer, your fuel gauge? You know, you have your air pressure, air brake, you have your secondary, you know, and even goes according to your oil temperature, your manifold. You even have your front axle temperature gauge, you have your rear axle temperature gauge, you have your air filters. So you have so much gauges that can communicate, and that's how I look at it. I look at these are communication tools. These are communication tools to alert us, to let us know, to identify that there is a problem and we need to maybe stop and look into the problem to see what can we do to resolve this. Because if any one of these features come on our indicator, that is a way of it communicating to let us know there's a problem and we need to fix it. Okay, so that is great. So what else do we need to look at? Again, by even that, looking at your windshield wipers, putting on the switch, looking at your windshield wipers, are they working? But again, when we had the hood up, we verified if there was any type of fluid as far as in the reservoir for our windshield wipers is to be clean, because as we're traveling the roadways, we're going to be coming in contact with some type of bugs or anything that may have. Okay, looking at your windshield, are there any significant cracks in the windshield that's going to block your vision here obstruct your vision as you're traveling on the roadway, okay? That is real important in cleanliness. We just want to make sure your windows, your mirrors are all set, adjusted to your, again, your operation. Because again, we may have someone operating this vehicle prior to you that may have different angles of seeing things differently. So again, making sure you have everything set to your benefit. Okay, so once we identify this, you're putting on as far as your gauges and looking for a type as far as a signal or warning light that come on to letting us know there's some malfunction or something that is not operating as it need be on the vehicle. Okay, so once we identify these things, I think we're all set. We're going to continue again to start the vehicle. But one of the other key components, again, as I consider myself a confident person, but again, horn. What is a horn? It's a communication device, right? That's the way of communicating to other drivers, alerting other people. And as far as the signal lights, these are all communication devices that we have to come real familiar with, okay? So again, moving on, we're going to continue to start up the vehicle. So we have done that. All the gauges are moving to their designated spots. No warning lights coming on. Everything is working normal, and I think we're good to go. So again, being that this is an air-operated truck, air brakes, we're gonna let the gauges actually go up to their designated settings, and we're gonna continue to wait for that. And once that happens, I think we're good to go. All right. So again, guys, please make sure that inspection is done thorough. It's for the safety of you and for the safety of others while we're commuting on the highway. We appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, everyone. This conducts as far as the end of the driver vehicle inspection. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you can use it to your benefit, and hopefully it can continue to make your job easier prior to getting on the highways, okay? So it's real important, guys. Preventive maintenance, and as far as housekeeping. Housekeeping is important not only for the outside of the vehicles, but also the inside of the vehicles. That any type of material that can obstruct your operation as far as using your foot, as far as for the brake, for the pedal, for just maneuvering in all directions. So housekeeping is real important. Everything has a place. Let's make sure we can continue to keep it that way, and I think we'll be able to continue to be successful. Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you all.